Naomi Voss hated anniversaries. She sat alone in her apartment, surrounded by unopened mail and dusty awards from a life she no longer lived. Rain ticked against the windows, turning the Los Angeles skyline into a watercolor smear. On the floor beside her was a box she swore she'd throw out last year, filled with newspaper clippings, expedition photos, and the last birthday card her sister ever sent. 5 years ago to the day, Celia had vanished. Officially, she was presumed dead in accident during a humanitarian mission gone wrong in the Corzin region. But Naomi never believed the story. There was no body, no witness, just an email saying Celia was headed somewhere off the grid, and then nothing. The world moved on. Naomi didn't. The phone on the counter buzzed. Not her iPhone, the other one. The cheap burner she kept out of habit, just in case. She frowned. The battery had been dead for weeks. It rang again. She walked over and picked it up. The screen flickered dimly. Unknown number, 1 missed call, 1 voicemail. Naomi pressed play. Static. Then Naomi. They lied. I'm not dead. They're still watching me. Don't trust anyone. The message cut off with a harsh burst of white noise. Naomi stood frozen, her throat clenched around the scream rising inside her. Celia's voice, her cadence, the slight rasp she always had when she was nervous. Oh, God. She replayed it. Naomi. They lied. I'm not dead. The timestamp read, 2:40, 1 a.m. today. She didn't sleep. She didn't eat. By morning, she had transferred the audio to her laptop and scrubbed it through sound enhancement software. The background held more than static. A faint bell chime, waves crashing, and a low mechanical hum like an industrial fan. She amplified the track again. Celia had whispered the word echo. The software confirmed the voice print. It was a 99.6% match with earlier recordings of Celia. Naomi sat back in her chair, chest pounding. This wasn't a prank. It wasn't a delusion. It was real. She tried calling the number back. Disconnected, of course. Her apartment looked like a war zone by the time she finished tearing through Celia's old belongings. She found it in the lining of a canvas messenger bag, a small leather-bound journal. Inside, Celia's tight script filled the pages. Wexley Bay, temp contract. They didn't tell me everything. I think there's more going on Nadir project. Sounds like a front. Naomi flipped ahead. They keep asking about triggers. Sensory implants? Is this even medical? Last night I heard someone whispering my name. Nobody was there. If I go missing, find Cross, EchoNet. It's not just theory anymore. Naomi's fingers trembled. Wexley Bay. Project Nadir. EchoNet. What the hell had Celia gotten involved in? 2 days later, Wexley Bay. The seaside town looked like a postcard that had faded in the sun. Wind-slicked docks, salt-stained shop windows, and a constant hush of waves. Naomi parked her rental near a bait shack and took a long breath. According to the journal, Celia worked here 6 months before the expedition part-time research assistant for a behavioral health company called Lucent Minds. She started at the local library. Public records were her native language. Lucent Minds had run community outreach programs here about 5 years ago, cognitive enrichment workshops that sounded harmless. But Naomi's instincts prickled. She found one address listed as a former site. It had been converted into a bakery, but the woman behind the counter remembered Celia. The dark-haired one, right? Kinda quiet. Wrote a lot. Naomi nodded. She left suddenly, didn't say goodbye. The other girl with her was real shaken. Used to work the tattoo shop now. Ren Mendoza. The name was scrawled in the margins of Celia's journal. The tattoo shop was tucked behind a boarded-up arcade. Inside, the air smelled like ink and lemon cleaner. The woman at the front desk looked up, eyes narrowing. Walk-ins are booked. I'm looking for Ren Mendoza, Naomi said. The woman's gaze sharpened. Who's asking? I'm Naomi Voss, Celia's sister. A pause. Then, come back tonight, after closing. The alley behind the shop reeked of old cigarettes and wet paint. Wren stepped out of the shadows in a leather jacket, her shaved head gleaming under the street lamp. "I thought you were dead too," Wren said. "Or one of them." "Who?" asked Naomi. Wren scoffed. "People who steal memories." Naomi blinked. "I need answers." Wren looked her over. "You really don't remember, do you?" "Remember what?" Wren pulled a pack of gum from her pocket and popped one in. "Celia helped me break out. I was in the program Project Nadir. I signed up because I wanted to forget some things." She tapped her temple. "Turns out they didn't just erase pain. They inserted others. False stuff, voices, flashbacks. Then they cut me loose." Naomi stared at her. "They paid Celia to monitor us. She figured out what they were really doing, developing a thing called EchoNet, a neural map that could be overwritten." "Overwritten?" Naomi echoed. Wren nodded. "She tried to go public. Then she disappeared. You don't think that's a coincidence, do you?" Naomi's stomach turned. "Where is she now?" "If I knew," Wren said, "I wouldn't still be sleeping with a knife under my pillow." That night, Naomi couldn't sleep. Every sound felt like a threat. Her dreams fractured. When she awoke, she was gripping the journal, convinced someone had whispered her name. The next morning, she found her rental car had been broken into. Nothing taken, just the glove compartment ransacked, as if someone had been searching for something. She checked her apartment voicemail remotely. A new message. This time, a man's voice. "Naomi Voss, I'd like to talk. You're in danger, but not for the reason you think. Meet me at the Silver Strand Overlook at 3 p.m. Come alone." She played it again. The voice was calm, confident, older. He was already there when she arrived. Gabriel Cross didn't look like an ex-spook. No dark glasses, no weapons, no gadgets, just a jacket and a 1,000-yard stare. "I knew your sister," he said. Naomi kept her distance. "You worked with her?" He shook his head. "I watched her. She was a field observer on a classified project I used to oversee, EchoNet." Naomi flinched. "You're with Lucent Minds?" "Used to be, before it went private, before Varelli turned it into something else." She crossed her arms. "Why should I trust anything you say?" "You shouldn't," he replied, "but your sister's alive. She faked her death after stealing data on EchoNet's human trials. I'm guessing she planned to send it to you." "She didn't." He nodded slowly. "Then she's running out of time." Later that night, Naomi stared at her reflection. Her eyes looked wrong, like they belonged to someone else. She remembered Gabriel's final words. "Naomi, you were part of the early test pool. 5 years ago, you volunteered." "That's impossible." "You were grieving, depressed, vulnerable. That's who they targeted." "I would remember." "No," he said, "you wouldn't." A voice whispered in the back of her mind. "Don't trust anyone, even yourself." The dream was always the same. Naomi stood in a hallway flooded with light. Doors lined the walls, each marked with numbers that didn't make sense. 190X, 3D2, Ur3, Ta37, Red 42. She heard footsteps, running water, someone sobbing softly, then a whisper too close to her ear. "Wake up, they're in your head." She woke in her motel room, soaked in sweat. For a moment, she didn't recognize where she was or who she was. It took nearly a full minute to reassemble herself. Her name, her purpose, the voicemail. Celia. At the local clinic, Naomi used a fake name to schedule a neural scan. The technician frowned at the results. "Have you had prior neurosurgery or trauma?" "No." He turned the screen toward her. "You have micro-scarring along your hippocampus, small but consistent, like someone's been tampering with your memory center." "Tampering?" He nodded. "Or suppressing. This isn't normal. I'd recommend a specialist." Naomi thanked him, walked outside, and threw up in a trash can. In the journal, Celia had circled a name, Lydia Varelli. Gabriel had mentioned her too. She was the CEO of Lucent Minds, former neuroscientist. blacklisted in Europe for ethics violations. Naomi found a photo online. Varelli looked surgically polished, silver hair, pristine smile, eyes like surgical steel. She ran lucent mines from a private compound outside Wexley Bay, the Calyx Institute. Naomi drove past it once, pretending to be lost. The place was enormous. Tall fencing, discreet cameras, mirrored windows, no signage. It didn't feel like a lab, it felt like a fortress. Naomi broke into Celia's cloud account using an old password. She found a draft email unsent. Naomi, if you're reading this, I either made it out or I didn't. Either way, you need to understand. EchoNet doesn't just record memories, it replicates them. It can insert thoughts like seeds into the brain, grow them into beliefs, dreams, obsessions. I think they used it on you too. That's why you don't remember the hospital, the tests, the migraines, the dreams. Go to the lighthouse, 3rd floor, behind the rusted generator. There's a cash box. The access word is Althea. Naomi stared at the screen. Her hand shook slightly as she read the last line. If you start hearing voices, don't ignore them. One of them might be me. The lighthouse sat on the edge of a wind-beaten cliff. She climbed the rusted stairs to the 3rd floor, her flashlight cutting through the shadows. The generator stood like a dead beast, cables coiled like intestines. She searched behind it, heart pounding. Metal clinked, a small lockbox. She whispered, "Althea." It popped open. Inside, a flash drive, a printed map with 2 locations circled marked K-Cell, the other lab, X, and a small audio recorder. She pressed play. Celia's voice again. If you're hearing this, I've been compromised or am in hiding. The K-Cell facility is the root. That's where they test the deepest implants. Lab X is where they condition field assets, erase and reprogram. EchoNet is more than memory manipulation. It's behavioral overwrite. You were one of their first trials, Naomi. You were grieving, lost. They used that. You came here, you forgot, over and over again. Naomi dropped to her knees. She remembered a dream. Celia holding her hand as a doctor inserted needles into her temple. Celia crying. Naomi telling her it would be okay. Was it a dream? Or was it a memory? She found Gabriel waiting at the edge of Wexley's abandoned train depot, holding a manila folder. "I have something for you," he said quietly. "It's your intake form." He handed her the folder. Naomi opened it slowly. The photo was old. Her own face. Gaunt, hollow-eyed. Patient name, Naomi Voss. Date, March 2, 2020. Procedure, EchoNet protocol, Tier 1 purpose, voluntary memory erosion, grief conditioning, supervising observer, C. Voss. She dropped it. No, this isn't. It is, Gabriel said. You came willingly. You begged them to erase the trauma. Celia thought she could protect you, monitor you from inside, but Varelli had other plans. Naomi staggered back. You said Celia's alive. She is, he said. But barely. She's being kept in the K-Cell facility, sedated. They found her when she tried to leak the data. Then help me get her out. Gabriel didn't answer right away. Then, you're not just a sister anymore, Naomi. You're a former asset, you're evidence. If we do this, we don't come back. Naomi met his eyes. I never planned to. The K-Cell facility sat inside an old psychiatric hospital off Route 9, listed as condemned. Naomi and Gabriel arrived just after midnight. They wore maintenance uniforms, carrying gear bags. Gabriel's forged ID badge fooled the outer gate security. Inside, the halls reeked of antiseptic and old lies. 3rd level down, Gabriel whispered. Isolation wing. They passed through security doors, avoiding cameras using old maintenance routes Gabriel had memorized. Naomi's pulse was a drumbeat in her throat. She paused at a mirrored wall and caught her reflection. It was her, and not her. She kept moving. The hallway to isolation was empty, cold. Lights buzzed like wasps. They reached the end and stopped at a steel door labeled 17. Gabriel pulled a keycard. Ready? Naomi nodded. The door slid open. Celia lay on a bed, arms restrained, wires feeding into her skull and chest. Her hair was shorn, her frame skeletal, but her eyes fluttered when the light hit her. Naomi rushed forward. Celia! Her sister blinked, recognition flared. Nay, Naomi choked. It's me. I'm here. I found you. Celia's voice was a whisper. They're in you, still. What? Trigger words? Celia said faintly. They buried them in your thoughts. If they activate. The lights flared red. An alarm screamed. Gabriel swore. They knew. Get her out. I'll hold them off. No, I'm not leaving. You have to, he shouted, drawing a pistol. Celia gripped Naomi's hand. Althea. The word struck Naomi like a switch. A scream tore through her mind. Images flooded her needles, bright lights, commands. Then silence. When she came to, she was outside, in the woods. Celia beside her, wrapped in a coat. Gabriel's voice echoed in her earpiece. They didn't follow, but you need to run, go dark. Find Lab X. That's where the last backup of your memories is stored. If you can retrieve it, you can end this. Where are you? Silence. Then static. Then nothing. The road to Lab X was unmarked. Naomi followed the map from Celia's cash box back roads, service trails, a forgotten maintenance route that ended in a clearing near Black Pines. There, buried beneath a concrete shell, was the last known location of the EchoNet project. She and Celia waited until nightfall. Celia, still fragile, leaned on her, wrapped in layers. Her eyes were clearer, though haunted. They kept cycling me, she whispered. I don't know how long I was under. They made me think you were dead, then that you never existed. Naomi tightened her grip. They tried the same with me. Celia stared at the trees. If we fail, they'll rewrite us like we were a typo. The Lab X entrance was camouflaged beneath a derelict power substation. Gabriel's last intel said the project had gone off-book, privatized by Lucent Minds, and relocated here when the federal probe got too close. Naomi picked the outer locks, bypassed 2 motion alarms. The inner doors required biometrics. That's where Celia came in. Her retinal signature still worked. Inside it was cold and humming. The place felt alive. Lab X was built like a maze, circular corridors, sealed rooms, no windows, echoes of footsteps, the occasional hiss of hydraulic doors. Naomi found the central terminal by following heat signatures on an old device Gabriel gave her. The mainframe room glowed with blue light. Echo, Nexone blinked across the master terminal. Celia limped in behind her. That's it. That's where they stored the memory archives. Naomi stepped forward, slid the flash drive into a port. The system flared. A series of files emerged, thousands of memory fragments, all tagged. Subject: N. Voss, Cycle 1. Grief Test Cycle 2. Sister Deletions Cycle 3. Obedience Script, CYCL 4. False Escape, Cycle 5. Loop Interruption Status. Active Rewrite, Incomplete. Time remaining, 17:45. Naomi's breath caught. They're rewriting me, right now. Celia looked pale. That's why the dreams keep looping. They're tethered to the code. You're inside 2 minds, the one you built, and the one they planted. Naomi scrolled. One file glowed red. Basiline Core, Authority Override, Althea. She clicked. The system resisted. Then, warning. Personality anchor compromise detected. Proceed with extraction? She hit yes. The room exploded with noise. Monitors stuttered. Memories poured onto the screen, snapshots of her life, warped and disjointed. Her first published article, Celia holding her during their parents' funeral. A faceless doctor whispering, "You're better off forgetting," Celia whispered. "They built you like a dollhouse, every wall designed to collapse on cue." Naomi's hand hovered over the Restore Original Identity prompt. What happens if I hit this? You remember everything, the good, the buried, the conditioned, all of it. And if I don't? You keep living a story someone else wrote. She pressed the button. It was like being pulled through a tunnel of glass. Her mind cracked open. She saw everything. The grief after Celia died in 2020. The clinic that promised to erase the pain. Meeting Lydia Varelli in a sunlit office, her words silk soft. You deserve peace, Naomi. Let us give it to you. We'll just turn down the volume of your suffering. Agreeing, signing the forms, volunteering, the first sessions, neural dampening, then exposure therapy, false memories to overwrite the truth. The lies grew roots. They made her forget Celia, made her believe she was better without the past. Each time she doubted, they reset the cycle. Over 5 years, Naomi had lived 5 different versions of herself, every one of them curated. The system beeped, restore complete. Identity integrity, 78%. Warning. Core overlap detected. Naomi staggered. Celia caught her. You okay? Naomi's voice was calm. I remember who I was, and who they turned me into, and I know what we need to do. They set the system to overload. Naomi wiped the memory banks. Every test, every file, every script written to control human thought. Then she uploaded Celia's journal, the intake forms, and their video testimonies to a secure leak site Gabriel had pre-programmed. She added a final message. EchoNet is real. We were part of it. They erased who we were and rewrote us. We remember now. So should you. Naomi Voss. She hit send. They made it outside just as the failsafe ignited. The earth shook as the underground core began its slow, irreversible meltdown. Flames licked through the substation. Naomi and Celia ran until the smoke blurred the trees. Then silence. No alarms. No voices. Just the sound of the real world. In the weeks that followed, the leak spread. Anonymous whistleblower reports. Photos. The intake forms. Neural schematics. Naomi's voice recording. News outlets picked it up, cautiously. Politicians denied everything. But the evidence stuck. An internal investigation into Lucent Minds began. Lydia Varelli vanished before she could be subpoenaed. Celia went into hiding with Gabriel's network. Naomi checked in from time to time. The last time they spoke, Celia smiled and said, I don't have all my pieces back, but I've got the ones that matter. Naomi returned to the lighthouse. The wind screamed like it always had. The waves crashed without mercy. But she stood steady. She didn't dream of numbers anymore. She dreamed of truth. She wasn't who they'd built her to be. She was what survived it. The world didn't explode. It unraveled quietly. Naomi watched the aftermath from the sidelines. EchoNet was exposed, its name whispered across forums and journalism networks, but governments hesitated. Corporations denied involvement. Lucent Minds issued a vague statement about early prototype testing and rogue divisions. Dr. Lydia Amelia Varelli had disappeared before any formal charges could be filed. Some said she fled to South America. Others said she'd gone underground into one of her own facilities. Naomi knew better. The final truth was still buried. And she wasn't finished. Naomi returned to the city under a new name. She kept her head low, changed apartments, used encrypted devices. Only a few people knew she was alive. Gabriel's last contact had led her to a private clinic in Luxembourg, clean, clinical, faceless, where Varelli had once delivered an address under a pseudonym, Dr. A. Althea. There, Naomi found what she was looking for. One final breadcrumb. A file fragment left behind in the clinic's neuro archive, buried under layers of encryption. She decrypted it over 2 sleepless nights. It was a recording. Naomi, age 29. Session 3. Subject. Emotional reframing via memory loop. On screen she looked pale, nervous. Her voice was thin. I just want to stop hurting. I don't care if you take the memories. Just make the pain stop. And behind her voice, another measured, clinical. We will remove the trauma anchors and install a stable emotional framework. You won't remember this exchange, but your subconscious will thank you." Naomi closed the file. For a long time she said nothing. Then she copied it to her drive. The world needed to hear her at her weakest. That's how they'd know the truth was real. She wrote the story over the next month. It wasn't a report or an expose, it was a confession. The Death of What We Remember opened with a quote from Celia. "The most dangerous lie is the one we forget we agreed to believe." It chronicled her spiral after Celia's disappearance. The clinic, the sessions, the erasure, the false versions of herself, the memory implants, and finally, the unraveling. She described the experiments in plain language: how EchoNet used vulnerable volunteers to test synthetic memory implantation, and how its real goal wasn't healing, it was control. The article went viral within hours, but the price came quickly. 2 nights after publication, Naomi's safe house was breached. She escaped with minutes to spare, crawling down a service ladder while 2 figures in black scoured her apartment. She made it to an extraction point. Ren had arranged a tattoo parlor closed for renovations, hiding a steel trapdoor to a forgotten speakeasy tunnel. Inside, Ren waited. She dyed her hair silver, eyes sharp, one hand resting on the old pistol Gabriel left behind. "I told you they'd come," Ren said. "This ain't over." Naomi nodded, breathless. "I need to find her." "Varelli?" Naomi's voice was cold. "No more shadows, no more voices. I want to look her in the eyes." It took 12 days and the last of Gabriel's black book. A former Lucent engineer, now living in Iceland under witness protection, confirmed what Naomi suspected. Varelli hadn't fled. She was in Washington, D.C., working under a DARPA contract in a facility codenamed The Tether, a neuro-interface lab developing ethically abstracted cognitive architectures military speak for: legal memory control. Naomi walked into The Tether wearing a lab tech's stolen ID badge, a ball cap, and borrowed glasses. Ren had forged the credentials. Celia, still off-grid, sent a final encrypted blueprint: internal layout, camera blind spots, emergency lockdown override. It was enough. Naomi found Varelli in a glass-walled server room, speaking into a neural interface. She looked almost peaceful, elegant, ageless. Her voice flowed like silk. "Version 7 is more stable. Emotional reactivity is down. Compliant scripting within 3% tolerance. Begin partial identity reformat." Naomi stepped forward. Varelli turned, paused, then smiled. "Ah, Naomi Voss." Naomi pulled a flash drive from her pocket. "This ends now." Varelli raised a brow. "That's what Gabriel said once." Naomi clenched her jaw. "He died helping me undo what you did, what you made me forget." "Did I make you forget, or did you ask me to?" Naomi faltered. Varelli stepped closer, eyes gleaming. "You were the perfect subject. Intelligent, emotionally fragile, desperate. You volunteered. I offered peace, and you asked me to take the pain. That wasn't control, Naomi. That was consent." Naomi's voice cracked. "You exploited people at their weakest." "I gave them silence," Varelli said. "You called it erasure. I called it mercy." Naomi stepped to the terminal. "You buried too many truths." Varelli's face hardened. "This changes nothing. The world wants forgetfulness. They want the illusion of peace." Naomi inserted the flash drive. "It's not about what the world wants," she said. "It's about what they deserve to remember." She hit execute. The data flowed into the Tether's core: patient videos, erased records, neural maps, trial failures, deaths, cover-ups, everything Celia had collected, everything Naomi had recovered, every lie, and every truth. Security stormed the lab. But Naomi was already gone through the fire exit, through the maintenance tunnel, where Ren waited in a stolen truck. They drove through the night. 1 week later, Naomi sat alone in a motel room in Montana, watching Varelli's televised arrest. She didn't smile, didn't cry, just watched as the world turned slowly, painfully toward the truth. 2 months later, Naomi walked back into her father's home for the first time in years. Hank stood on the porch holding a copy of the New York Times. Her article was on the front page again. He looked older, but when he saw her, his face cracked open, grief and pride woven together. "I knew you weren't done," he whispered. "I didn't know who I was for a long time," she said. Hank reached out, took her hand. "You came back." Naomi looked at him, at the house, at the fading light. So did she. That night, she sat on the back porch with her laptop. She began to type again, not a confession, not a report, but something else. A story. About two sisters. One who disappeared to protect the truth, and one who let herself forget until she couldn't anymore. The last paragraph read, "We are not the sum of our pain, nor the lies built to soothe it. We are what survives when the silence breaks. My name is Naomi Voss. I remember everything, and I choose to never forget again." Enjoyed the story? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next one.